Good morning and welcome to our Lynn Cancer Institute updates for 2025. We're calling our series now Important Information for Everyone, because especially for our nutrition presentations, they truly are for everyone. Of course, they're aimed for our cancer patients and their caregivers, but it's information for all of us. Today's presentation is entitled, How Does Food Connect Us? We're very grateful to have you all with us today and to learn from our very own oncology clinical dietitian, Brandy Hyatt. At the Lynn Cancer Institute, we believe that nutrition is the basis of healthy living for our patients and survivors, as well as prevention for all of us. Brandy's bio has been sent to you by email. And during her presentation, we invite you to please take notes and write down any questions that you might have. And at the end of her presentation, you can put your questions into either the chat box or the question and answer box. And she'll have time to answer your questions at the end of the presentation. So that being said, we welcome Brandy and look forward to this presentation. Thank you, Brandy.
Thank you, Jan. Good morning, everybody. Super excited to be here and be a part of the Keeping You in the Know series. This month, I am super excited to share with everybody our National Nutrition Month theme. So every year since about 1980, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics has chosen a theme to really emphasize the importance of healthy eating throughout the nation. So this year, our theme is Food Connects Us, and we're going to go on a little journey to see how food connects us, not only to eating healthy, but also to our roots. So our agenda today, we will start out with connecting with food. Then we'll talk a little bit about disconnecting with food, connecting through all stages of life, and making healthier connections. Because ultimately, that's what we want to do, is we want to eat healthier and live a healthier lifestyle. So connecting with food. So I want you to think about what it is that your original language is. Okay, a lot of us are grown up, or we grow up in a household that speaks English, but sometimes we have other original languages, such as Spanish, Indian, that sort of thing. But ultimately, we can travel the world and we can all still communicate through food. Food ultimately is the common language that binds us or connects us all. So the goal of this presentation is to look at how we connect with food, why it's important to connect with food, and ultimately what does it mean to connect with food. And I will help you navigate that journey so that you can better connect with your food and ultimately your healthy lifestyle. Interesting fact, the average meal travels 1,500 miles to reach your plate, which is the equivalent of driving from Chicago to Miami. So think about that for a minute. When we sit down for dinner every night, our food comes a long way typically to get to where we want it to. What does it mean to connect with food? This is a topic that I just really found very challenging this year, as far as how am I going, as a dietitian, how am I going to teach my patients and my listeners how food connects, how we connect with our food. It was kind of a little bit of a challenging theme, and ultimately it really caused me to really dive deep into kind of a little bit more mindfulness and trying to get on a different level to see what it means to connect with food and also how we can share that in our journey. So connecting with food is a factor for many of us, right? Food connects us to our cultures, our family, and our friends. Sharing a meal is an opportunity for all of us to learn about its preparation, who made it, where were the ingredients, where did they come from, how were they grown, how did they get to us? And what's more, food connects us through, when we sit down and we make those memories, but it connects us to being healthier. There are five things connecting with food allows us. By connecting with food, it allows us to be more aware. So being conscious of where your food comes from, how it's grown, how it's produced, that really impacts not only our health, but also the environment around us. Connecting with our food also allows us to appreciate what it is that we have. Okay, so appreciation, valuing that effort, then resources that go into producing our food from farming all the way to getting it to the table. This can lead us to a greater sense of gratitude and respect for what we eat. By connecting with food, it also allows us to be more aware and more mindful. And mindfulness will be a running theme throughout this presentation. And by being mindful, it helps you engage all of your senses while you're eating. It helps you savor flavors, textures, and aromas. And this practice can really help enhance not only your health, but it will also enhance your enjoyment and your satisfaction with meals. By connecting with food, it allows us to be more culturally connected. In this day and age, sometimes it's a little more challenging to try new things, but I think really understanding and connecting again, you really understand and appreciate the cultural significance of different foods and the traditions that surround that. This can also foster a sense of belonging and connection to your heritage of the cultures of others. By connecting with food, it also allows us to be more emotionally connected. If we think about food, a lot of times it really conjures up a lot of memories. I mean, think about our celebrations and our social gatherings. Typically, there's always food as a focus. And that food, at birthdays, at anniversaries, that really helps, really impacts our memories that surround it. So what are ways that we can connect with our food? Connecting with food can really be a deeply personal and enriching experience. And, a few ways we can really look at connecting is to have a date night with food. And date night doesn't just have to be with a loved one or significant other. It can also be a girls' night out, learning about their other cultures and enjoying a different cultural-based traditional meal. Visiting culturally diverse restaurants. I know here in South Florida, we have a really nice diversified options to different cultures and to different foods. Picking recipes that can be shared and prepared amongst family members. I really see kind of a downward trend in this, and I really want to encourage you to pick recipes and share them with your family and share them, with the kids and let them help you prepare meals to really help keeping that connection with food going across the generations. And then ultimately planning and preparing your own meals and snacks is another way to help you connect with the food that's around you. Tracing our food's roots to connect with what we eat. Now, I have this slide in there because I think it's really important to kind of backtrack or kind of backpedal and look at ultimately where does our food come from? Because that's going to provide us with the foundation of really what we eat. Okay, so by getting connected to the different ways that we bring the food into our house, I think that can really influence eating healthy, as well as forming those traditions and those memories. So the first option is always growing your own food. right? I know that we do have a community garden here in Boca Raton, and we have a plot there, and we do grow some of our food. And it's kind of fun. And if you have children that will help in that whole process as well, it really teaches them where food comes from. And it's very enriching, and it's very therapeutic and rewarding to grow your own food. And then you can bring it to your table. Visiting local farmers markets is a really nice way to not only support local economy, but help reduce the environmental risks to transporting produce far away. It helps save valuable resources. I know a lot of times a lot of our local farmers markets close in the summertime, so that sort of forces us to go more so to the grocery stores. But grocery stores, of course, are always a great place to get the majority of our food, which I know a majority of us, that's where we focus on. But I know here in Boca, we do have some culturally friendly grocery stores. I know we have a new one that opened up in West Boca that's more Latin influenced. I think it's called Bravo. And then there's also a Jewish grocery store called The Grove, also in West Boca, which it's really nice to go through there, walk through there, and really see the different options that different cultures have to provide to or offer us. And then also another way that we can purchase our food is through online markets. And I recently found one that I really enjoy, and it's one of those box delivery systems. It's called Marley Spoon. But the cool thing about that is it allows me to choose recipes that I may not normally cook. So I'm able to choose, Latin inspired recipe one night, the next night it might be Mediterranean infused. It's really a nice way to get all of the products you need, all of the food that you need for that recipe, and make a quick meal for the family. Also, there is another one that's really good called Hungry Root, and that too provides different culturally diverse recipes that are pretty easy to prepare. But thinking again about ways where we obtain our food and how it gets to our table, and how we can sprinkle in a little bit more of the culturally inspired, diverse options that are out there to help us better connect with our food. Now, ultimately, you might be thinking, why is it even important to connect around food? So connecting with food is really important because it really helps with cultural identity. So food is such a significant part of cultural heritage and traditions. It helps us preserve that cultural identity and allows people to connect with their roots. Health and well-being, which is really my big focus as a registered dietitian. It helps us being more mindful of what we eat and how it can lead to a healthier lifestyle, which overall positively will impact our physical health. Understanding the origins and the benefits of different foods can encourage, ultimately, healthier eating habits. Connecting with our food also helps us with an emotional connection. Food often evokes memories and emotions. So sharing that meal, sharing those happy feelings, those memories that surround the family meal can really help strengthen the bond and, of course, form everlasting memories. Sustainability, understanding where our food comes from, whether we're growing it ourselves, whether we're purchasing it locally, it can really help us lead to more sustainable choices. And this awareness can help reduce a lot of our food waste and support the local farmers and their environmentally friendly practices. Culinary skills, I don't see this enough in the world, and I really, encourage you to really try to learn a new skill, learn something different, take away something different today that you wouldn't normally do, whether that's a knife skill or seasoning with a different season today. Engaging with food through cooking and experimenting with recipes can enhance your culinary skills and creativity. And it can also be super fun and a rewarding activity. And then here's our mindfulness thread again. So it's a common thread we'll see throughout this presentation. It's just taking that time again to appreciate and savor food to help promote more mindfulness, which will lead to a greater appreciation and really more of a healthier lifestyle. All of these things super important to help you connect with food. Now, we can talk about connection with food and how important it is, but I think it's so important also to look at some of the barriers that might get in the way that cause us to disconnect from food. What is it that breaks that link and makes us, not makes us, but makes it easier, I guess, to choose more unhealthier choices? And I really love this quote. It says, disconnecting from food is like losing touch with a vital part of our essence. It distances us from the nourishment that fuels our body, mind, and soul. So, how do we disconnect? We disconnect from food by buying into fad diets, by listening to social media, and also by misinterpreting science. Fad diets have been around for decades. I mean, there's not a decade, of more recent time that hasn't had something that people want to buy into for that quick fix. Okay. I know my husband right now, he's really interested in the carnivore diet, which drives me a little bit nuts, but it's something that we can at least open that conversation and discuss why it's not the healthiest choice. Social media everywhere today. You can look and you can see an influencer who may call themselves a nutritionist or a health coach. And just so you guys know, anybody who has had one class in nutrition can call themselves a nutritionist, similar to these health coaches. But to be a registered dietitian, we have to have an undergraduate degree in nutrition. Actually, mine's in biology. And then we have to sit for a state board, as well as in between, we have to have 900 plus hours of an internship. So it's a lot of work, and we know how to interpret the science when we're not grabbing sound bites that you'll see a lot of on social media. So beware. So when you're listening to the social media, beware what you're listening to and who you're listening to and what their credentials are. Misinterpreting science. I talk about misinterpreted science pretty much all day long, every day. And we'll get into that a little bit more. Honing in a little bit on the fad diets and why they really lead to a disconnection from food. A lot of the fad diets really focus on restrictive eating. So they're cutting out entire food groups or severely limiting calories. So in any time you do that, we're really harnessing a negative relationship with food. And where eating becomes more about restriction than it becomes about nourishing your body. All fad diets are pretty much focused on the short term. So, we're focused on losing 5 pounds or, doing something else, making us have more energy or whatever it is that they promise. There's not a long-term look at what it is that this food will do. And I think that is important because really, we can't really do a whole lot in the short term that won't affect us in the long term. And ultimately, this could lead to really unhealthy eating patterns and a lack of sustainable habits. Nutrient deficiencies. A lot of times my patients or my patients who buy into the fad diets, they may have already been nutrient deficient at that time, and then they buy into diets that exclude carbohydrates or exclude fat, and you never know like how long it'll take to be deficient in something, and that could lead to more health issues. So we have to be really careful with fad diets. Fad diets also promote yo-yo dieting, which is a series of losing weight, gaining weight, restricting calories, adding calories, and it really affects our metabolism and different metabolites in different ways. And it's not sustainable. correct? Fad diets also have their emotional impact. It really takes a toll because typically a lot of negative feelings surround that yo-yo dieting, that restrictive eating. And again, it takes away that focus on eating healthy and more about the restriction and what you can do to kind of stay in your lane and not not stray from that. So it's really hard. It really takes a toll on the emotions. Food myths are super popular here in the oncology space. And they really lead to a disconnection from food because of the surrounding with misinformation. When we believe in myths, we believe in different myths that are carbs are bad or gluten is harmful for everyone. So there may be some science, maybe a little bit of soundbite of science in there, but that's it. And they take it in directions that's really misinforming the population. Carbohydrates aren't bad, and gluten is not harmful to everyone. Food myths really spur fear and anxiety. We're so afraid to eat a certain food that honestly, I see it a lot in the oncology space. It could lead to disordered eating. So we're so afraid that that food is going to make our cancer worse or make me fat or whatever, that it really starts this pattern that could be difficult to break in the long run. Food myths also have unrealistic expectations. So, I mean, there's no way you can really continue and never eat a carbohydrate again or never eat a little bit of sugar again. Okay. So just be wary of food myths and the damage that they could do as well. Here in the oncology space, a lot of the more popular food myths are sugar feeds cancer and soy foods promote estrogen receptor positive cancer. Both of those are false. Sugar does not feed cancer, and you can eat soy foods. Social media, when we're talking again about disconnecting from food, social media could do two things. We could be on social media and we could just be mindlessly eating and watching our phones, correct? Or we could be watching our phones and skipping meals. So there's two sides of that. But I think the most important thing is that causes disconnection with the social media is the whole diet culture that it produces from these health coaches, from these nutritionists, from these influencers that really want to help you, so they say, do a quick fix. Okay, but I promise you there's no quick fix. Okay, it's a marathon, not a sprint when it comes to healthy lifestyle and healthy eating. Misinterpreting science. There's a lot of research out there in nutrition, but it's also very challenging to do a lot of research in the nutrition space. So when we find something that's relevant, we have to be very cautious as far as the research. And what will happen is the social media or even regular newspapers will take the soundbite that's going to get the most attention. So it's going to pull out high-fat foods are unhealthy. In the 1980s, that was a big fad diet to do low-fat diets. So high-fat foods are not all the same. They're not all created equal. So there's saturated fat, which absolutely is a fat that we don't necessarily want to include a lot of because it could do some stuff to us cardiovascularly. But poly and monounsaturated fats are amazing for us, and our body needs healthy fats. Misinterpreting science can also kind of promote that fear mongering or that misrepresentation of the foods, like in the high fat foods and the no carb diets, that we're making it sound like those particular items are going to hurt you ultimately, when really that's a big, huge misrepresentation. Another misrepresentation would also be superfoods can cure diseases. Now, I give a lot of kudos to our berries and our acai and our superfoods, our kale, and I love those foods and I promote those all the time. But I know in and on their own, although they are full of phytochemicals and antioxidants and fiber, and we love them, they're ultimately not going to cure a disease, but they will enhance your health, but they're not going to necessarily cure your disease. So I would be super wary if you hear those kind of claims. White potatoes are unhealthy. This is another one that gets me. I've had healthcare practitioners tell patients, don't eat anything white. Okay. Well, yeah, you can't really, it's a blanket statement. It doesn't really fit all sizes, right? So there are some health benefits to white potatoes, okay? But ultimately it comes down to moderation and how you prepare foods. Bananas cause belly fat. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that one. That one used to pop up a lot on the social media. No, bananas do not go straight to your belly and make it fat. And that drives me crazy. I still didn't even know where that one even rooted science-wise. So just be wary. And think about if you are disconnecting from food for any of these reasons. Connecting through all stages of life. This too was another really cool quote that I heard on another webinar, and it's called "Good or Bad, your relationship with food is the longest relationship you will have from birth to death." I think that's so powerful. It's absolutely true, right? We will always have food in our life, and it's the longest relationship. So when we talk about from birth to adulthood, did you know that babies' taste buds are developed even before birth? And even as a newborn, they have twice as many taste buds as adults. And they love sweet. Why? Because our breast milk is sweet, and that's typically the first food that they are exposed to. And that's why they love our breast milk. So, and as the babies age as they're introduced to solid foods, their taste buds adapt to new flavors. It's like a fresh palate. They could absorb so many different flavors and be super happy with that. As we transgress into adulthood, our taste buds again are still super adaptable. And actually, our taste buds turn over every 2 weeks. So, a lot of times here in the oncology space, I have patients that will lose their taste buds. But I try to give them, some hope, and I try to say, eventually they will come back. Okay, this is all temporary, but your taste buds will return. But in adulthood too, talking about that adaptation to different tastes and flavors, high sugar diets and high salt diets are really interesting to study because the more sugar, when we talk about high sugar diets, the more sugar that we consume, the more our body needs to get to that sweet level. So sugar can actually dull your taste buds sensitivity to sweetness. So you have to keep consuming sugar in order to reach what you were tasting before, which I think is interesting. So if you backpedal and you start taking away a lot of the sweet foods, your body will also adjust to bringing back to the time when you could eat just a little bit of sugar and it was super sweet. High salt diets. This is something that I've always taught with my patients who have cardiovascular disease. They need to follow a low salt diet. And I've had patients all the time tell me, I can't do that. I like to salt my foods. And I tell them, try this experiment. Stop salting your foods, take a step back, go with low sodium foods, and your taste buds will adjust. And then the more you decrease the salt, when you go back to the salt, it'll be so salty because your taste buds go backwards. Okay. So we kind of retrain our taste buds for both sugar and salt. And as we age and as we're adults, remember our taste buds are turning over every couple of weeks. Exposing them to new flavors makes our taste buds where they're very adaptable and they become very sensitive. And it's kind of cool. Like maybe something you didn't like a while ago, you might find that you like it again as far as different spices and flavors. So because we are in an oncology clinic, I do want to talk a little bit about connecting with a cancer diagnosis. Connecting with food with when you have a chronic disease, whether it's cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, can be a little challenging. And especially in this space when we sometimes have different side effects that are out of our control. But we can still try to connect with our food, just changing it up a little bit, changing the flavors, using more natural remedies if you're having some nausea, incorporating that ginger or lemon or mint, dividing up our meals into smaller, more frequent meals, avoiding those strong odors that maybe previously we really enjoyed. Staying hydrated is super important. A lot of times, my patients, when they might express that they are super hungry, sometimes they're dehydrated as well. So, staying hydrated will also go hand in hand with sort of eating a healthier diet as much as possible. Ultimately, we all want to make a healthier connection with food. We want to live a healthier lifestyle, we want to be a certain weight, and we just want our bodies completely nourished. This is one last quote that I'm going to share with you guys. Actually, it was posted by another dietitian on my social media, but I thought it was really good. Your diet is not only what you eat, it's what you watch, it's what you listen to, it's what you read, it's the people you hang around. Be mindful of the things you put in your body emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I just love that. So, how can you make healthier choices? How can you make a better connection with healthier lifestyle? So I think what's key is planning your meals and preparing your meals. So following it all the way from the refrigerator to the table. The more you plan your week, the better off you're going to be to not sidetrack into unhealthier choices. Balancing your plate. So I never want to say good food, bad food. I just want you to have a balance of carbohydrates, of protein, of your fruits and your vegetables. You just want to have that balance and everything in moderation. Staying hydrated, I kind of mentioned that before when we were talking about connecting with a cancer diagnosis. Now, if you are dehydrated, a lot of times you're going to seek, your body knows it's missing something, right? It's either missing hydration or it's missing food. And so a lot of times the hunger cues will kick in and really you're just dehydrated. So pay attention to your hydration status. Make sure you're reading nutrition labels. If something has an ingredient list of more than 5 ingredients, typically that's going to be a red flag that it's something that's more processed. So being aware of what your food has in it and staying away from the foods that are super processed are going to help you stay on the right track for making healthier choices. Mindful eating, again, paying attention, really being in the present moment when you're eating and really finding that connection through chewing and savoring and just being present with family at mealtime. And then ultimately seek support. If you're really struggling with making healthier choices, seek support from a registered dietitian. Another way to connect with healthier choices is exploring new things and exploring new different cultures. And some of the spices, maybe the way you grew up with, I had a friend that I went to high school with that her mom, every night, they knew she made 3 dishes. So it was either going to be chicken, pork chop, or steak and no spices, nothing of flavor. It was always the same. So maybe that's not appealing anymore. So trying and expanding the flavors is really important in helping you kind of staying on track. And then lastly, when I talk about, if you ask any registered dietitian, what is the healthiest lifestyle that you could engage in? Really, it comes down to the Mediterranean lifestyle. And I can't say enough about the Mediterranean lifestyle because it is so rich in nutrients. It has the healthy fats. So you're going to see a lot of polyunsaturated fat, monounsaturated fat in our avocados and our olives. It's going to be pretty lean. It's not going to have a lot of the saturated fat. That's really not the best for us. It's going to have a lot of lean proteins. So it doesn't necessarily say it's only plant-based because we do have animal proteins, but it does rely heavily on fish and seafood in general. And Mediterranean lifestyle is very low in processed foods. So that's going to be key as we move forward and our research expands on some of these processed foods and ultra processed foods and high fructose corn syrup, and we really see the damage that it is doing to our bodies and our generations, then we're really going to focus more on whole food. Moderate dairy. So dairy in the Mediterranean lifestyle, you're going to find it in the way of yogurt and kefir and feta cheese, which I think are all stars when it comes to dairy. The Mediterranean lifestyle is also balanced and it's sustainable. It is a meal plan or diet plan, which I hate the word diet, but it's a lifestyle that is sustainable. You could eat a Mediterranean lifestyle forever. And there are also cultural and social aspects based in their region and their culture that's, again, sustainable and balanced. So ultimately, connecting with food is a journey, okay? And it's a journey that brings us from birth through adulthood. Our common language is food, and it will be our longest relationship that we have. So enjoy food, connect with food, let it nourish you and keep you healthy on your journey. And I thank you guys for, following me today or showing up to my presentation. I want to remind you, if you are an LCI patient who has been treated within the last year, welcome to come to our cooking demonstration tomorrow. We are in person from 1 to 2 here at the Sandler Pavilion. I will be preparing a Japanese, a Thai, and an Indian inspired food. Also, please join us back here April 9th from 11:30 to 12:30. Marie will be discussing the culinary pharmacy. And then Friday, April 11th, I will be here discussing head and neck cancers. April is Head and Neck Cancer Awareness Month. So thank you, everybody.
Andy, that was amazing. Does anyone, I'm sure there's a lot of questions, but does anybody have a question to ask right now? We have one comment, and that was thank you for setting this up. I don't think we can even imagine how much research and time goes into putting together a presentation like this. And Randy, we appreciate that and the amazing way that you present it. And also, there's a question if we can get a copy of your presentation, and that will be available probably by next week. If you contact, Lee will be sending out a survey, and if you ask her, she'll be able to send you a link to this presentation, and you'll be able to see it again for yourself or pass it on to anyone that was unable to make it today. And I just want to say an extra thank you to Brandy for really explaining to us the distinction of being a dietitian, because we know there's a lot of information everywhere we look, in every magazine we pick up, of course, all over the internet, word of mouth. We all hear it all. And to hear you, especially for our cancer patients, make the distinction for sugar and for soy, we appreciate that. And to understand the credentials, to know that we can trust the science that you're presenting to us, makes this presentation even more important for all of us. So thank you, Brandy. We really appreciate it. And as I said, this is recorded, so you'll be able to get a copy of it. And please complete the survey that Lee sends out to you. It's very helpful to all of us at the Lynn Cancer Institute to show that there's education and appreciation for the time and effort that is put into these lectures. And we'd like you to join us. This is our last presentation for March. And for April, on Wednesday, April 2nd, as part of our survivorship series, we have the Reverend Guillermo Escalona speaking on thriving, empowerment, engagement, and resilience, which is again a great education piece for all of us. Brandy mentioned the April 9th with Marie Culinary Pharmacy. And on Friday, April 11th, our physician panel series will focus on head and neck cancers, which April is the national recognition for head and neck cancers. Our speakers will be Doctors Micah Glon, our head and neck surgical oncologist, Dr. Ross Taylor, radiation oncologist, Matthew, our medical oncologist, and Brandy, that you just heard from today. That lecture will be from 12 to 1 on Friday the 11th. And then on Wednesday, April 16th, this is also Advanced Directives Month. So our licensed clinical social workers, Elsa Rayner and Ann Williams Nicholas, will be presenting the power of advanced care planning, which also is very important for all of us. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much, Brandy. And everyone have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.